What's up? How's everybody doing? Oh, how did everybody sleep? Why am I not here as usual? OBS. It's on my nerves. There we go. There we go. Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing? Boy, oh boy, are we gonna have fun today. Ooh, look at that. Ethereum fell below 2 grand. What did I tell you guys though? I told you we'd be back in the 60s if it didn't hold above 74. Uh-oh. And here we are. And I have reason to suspect that my new low prediction is gonna be in the 40 or 50 range, actually. Because I mean, you know, historically speaking, Bitcoin has, and during bear markets, Bitcoin has traditionally lost anywhere from like 50-60% to like 90%. I think the first bear market in 2011, it dropped 93%, and then I think it was like 87% the next bear market, and then 83% the following, and then 70 something the following, and currently we've only seen about 50 to 60% drop from the high. So, I mean, it very well, you can see there's a telescoping of the amount that it loses in bear market. So yeah, I mean, it could very well be over, bear market, you know, but I mean, obviously it's not, it's still going down. But I feel like it's probably going to be in the $40,000 and $50,000 range, and that would only be like 70% ish, which I think is fair. Okay. If you wouldn't mind, drop a like. It would really help the channel out. And I am doing my best to come up with stuff to talk about. I mean, there's plenty to talk about, right? This war is just batshit. And, yeah, the people that are obviously anti-Trump, which is fine if you want to be anti-Trump, I understand. They're coming out in droves. We got them now, as they usually do. It's like every day the narrative changes. So why would you latch on to any story of the moment, you know?
I give an update on the Operation Epic Fury, which is an appropriate name because we are absolutely obliterating them.
That's true.
Over the past 3 weeks, we've been hitting Iran's military capabilities at a level that few people have ever seen before. People never knew there was such a capability. We're the strongest military anywhere in the world by far.
Well, that's true.
I built it during my first administration, and I used it during my second administration. Unfortunately, because I'd rather not have to use it. But it's a display of force and precision and skill like nothing the world has really witnessed, although you get a pretty good witnessing of it in Venezuela also. And that was a smaller version of what we're doing now. We're crushing their missiles and drone stockpiles, destroying their defense industrial base. We've wiped out their Navy completely, their Air Force completely. We've wiped out a large percentage of their missiles. And the missile launchers, without the launchers, you can't.
We don't know that.
Do any good.
We don't know that
and
yet.
We've knocked out probably close to 90% of the launchers. Probably more than 90% of the missiles themselves. Between some they fired and more than they fired, we knocked out.
We don't know what they have in caves.
A lot of the factories will continue.
Now, hopefully, that fixed everything. The internet's been a little wonky here lately. I think I needed to restart the modem yesterday, probably. So, but hopefully that fixed everything.
Attacked in Iran. Schools are protected spaces. There's no justification for bombing a school which is full of children. This is not collateral damage. This is a war crime. This council must condemn the tragedy in Minab and ignore ideological differences in this regard. This is why we convened this urgent debate, to ensure the inviolability of schools. This is not selective. There must be an independent and impartial investigation into this incident in order to who are responsible are held accountable. Pain doesn't end, and victims have a right to truth and reparation. Thank you very much.
And we were just listening into some comments here on the UN Human Rights Council holding a debate amid the conflict going on over in the Middle East. We are going to slide away now for a quick 2-minute break, but when we come back, more live coverage on the other side.
So, these people are convening to discuss the atrocity of the school being bombed. I still see nobody blaming who was probably responsible for it. I mean, let's be honest, we don't know. But, come on, do you really think it would be America doing this? And even if it was America, believe that they could get away with it, that somebody could get away with it without getting a member of their own platoon kicking the shit out of them for it? Come on. I do not believe that America was responsible for that. It is in Iran's wheelhouse to pull a stunt like that and try and blame it on somebody else. I mean, for Christ's sake, they were attacking their own neighbors. Unprovoked. When we started attacking them, they were just like shooting everywhere, all around them. Death to the Islamic Republic. I am very passionate about this. They need to go. Pre-market's not even started yet. Because I'm ass early as per usual. Oh God, these people on here make me sick. Let's see what old Newsmax has to say.
Really, senators wanted to get the hell out of town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and nobody had to take their voting card and put it in the machine.
It's about time.
And cast it. And quite frankly, nobody at home and their constituents even know how they felt about this bill. So when Chuck Schumer says he held the line, the only thing he's held is paychecks for hardworking individuals who work for the Department of Homeland Security. That's what he's held over the last 40-something days. What he's done is he's held families hostage hostage in the middle of airports because it's taken hours upon hours for them to get on a plane and enjoy a family vacation. But now, like he's mentioned, in the darkness of night, without putting voting cards in the machine, he wants to be the savior.
Yeah, he held the line up for everyday Americans. To that point, border czar Tom Homan, he says,
would appear. Ooh, what's that? Ooh, that's sexy. People getting blown up. This is Euro News.
Koff and JD and Jared will tell me whether or not they think it's going along, and if it's not going, we have a lot of time. You know what? It's a day. In Trump time, a day, you know what it is? That's an eternity.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says Washington continues to see a daily increase in traffic in the Gulf, despite not fully securing the strait.
The Iranians believe they are fighting a two-front war. It is a military war that's
very much along those lines, that this is something the U.S. could end up being very embroiled in, because it's easy to start wars, it's not so easy to end them.
This is TRT News.
Following a confidential briefing the other day, some of them say they're very concerned that there doesn't seem to be a clear strategy, and what the public has been told about the objectives and the policy going forward in this war does not match what they were told in that briefing. So yes, huge concern, and that concern is only likely to increase.
To DC, thank you. Well, a number of people have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a residential area in southern Tehran. Reza Hatami reports from that
Imagine that.
I'm in the Shahreveh neighborhood of southern Tehran, where a residential building has been attacked in the early hours of Friday. We don't know exactly what has happened here. I mean, we don't know exactly who has been targeted, but it looks like a targeted assassination, which has been a hallmark, a defining feature of this war. The rescue workers here, Red Crescent workers here, said that at least 5 people have been killed in the building that is behind me. I'm not sure if you can see it now.
Think the best of the best don't herd together? Rethink how to round up the goats.
On the way.
Invesco QQQ.
Before investing, here's what you can consider: fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus or summary prospectus at Invesco.com.
At least one woman has been killed, has been among the 5 people who have been attacked. I hear that one child has survived the attack and has been rushed to hospital. I hear that several Afghan immigrants have also been living in this apartment. Here is a poorer neighborhood of southern Tehran.
I don't know about you,
too many Afghan immigrants.
but I'm getting sick of hearing that guy's microphone rattle in my ear, if that's what that is. I don't know what that is, but that was getting annoying. Let's go over to Euro News.
Which she was only now able to receive. Euronews spoke with her about the future of her country.
Welche Entwicklungen machen Ihnen Hoffnung in Belarus und welche machen Ihnen Sorgen?
Wenn man denkt und spricht über Zukunft, es gibt große Sorgen, so dass Belarus kann ihre Souveränität verloren, und es ist ganz nah eigentlich, weil ökonomisch wir sind nicht mehr so unabhängig als früher. Und das ist eigentlich ein Teil, es ist Ergebnis von Sanktionen. Wenn die Sanktionen ganz starkes Druck auf Lukaschenko machen, der kehrt sich nach Russland. Und Russland hat natürlich profitiert dafür, dass Belarus keinen Kontakt mit EU hat.
But what about the majority of people in Belarus? Are they moving towards the EU or towards Russia?
Es gibt jetzt eine riesige russische aggressive Propaganda in Belarus. Und es ist vielleicht sogar viel gefährlicher als Sanktionen, weil es ist schon 5 Jahre vorbei und es gibt jüngere Generationen, die haben 2020
prisons in Venezuela, empties his prisons into our country, and I hope that charge will be brought at some point, because that was a big charge that hasn't been brought yet. It should be brought. He emptied and was a major purveyor of drugs coming into our country, and he's now been captured and you know, I guess be given a fair trial. But I would imagine there are other trials coming, because they have they've really sued him just in a fraction of the kind of things that he's done. Other cases are going to be brought, as you probably know. In the meantime, with Iran, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, and nobody's a match for the United States, but they're not a match for the United States. It's small potatoes. That's why I'm so disappointed in NATO, because this was a test for NATO. This was a test. You can help us. You don't have to, but if you don't have, if you don't do that, we're going to remember. Just remember this in a number of months from now. Remember my statements. They have an expression, a great expression: never forget. Never forget. So as we end threats to America abroad, we're focused here at home on building the greatest economy in the history of the world. Now, before this started, the Dow hit 50,000. The S&P hit 7,000. Achievements were not achievable. Every one of you, most of you, I guess, said you'll never hit 50,000 during a 4-year period because it was too high a number. Well, we hit it in our first year. And I said, well, now we have to take an excursion to Iran, and we have to stop this maniac who's no longer with us. The supreme leader wasn't so supreme. No longer with us. It's very sad. But we have to stop him from blowing up the world, blowing up the Middle East, and blowing up our country, and we did that. And I thought, frankly, the oil prices would go up more, and I thought the stock market would go down more. It hasn't been nearly as severe as I thought. I think they have confidence in maybe the American president and maybe the people sitting around this table. But Americans filing their taxes this year are receiving record-setting refunds. It's been a very big story. Well, it should be a big story. I don't think you read about it that much, but I speak about it. I speak about it because if I speak about it, at least people hear. You don't write about it. You don't write about the drug prices going down. It'll be going down 30, 40, 50, 60%, 70%. Favored nations, called most favored nations. We're going to be paying the lowest price anywhere in the world. Before we paid the highest price in the world, Bobby, right? And now we're going to pay the lowest price in the world. That's quite a difference. It's a difference of from 40 to 70 and 80 and even 90%. That's a pretty big difference.
We were just listening in there to President Donald Trump as he held a cabinet
Why are you
meeting
cutting him
amid
off?
the conflict in Iran, giving an update on Operation Epic Fury. We're going to slide away for a quick 2-minute breaks, but more coverage when we return.
Oh, you have to pay the bills. That's why you take it. That's why you cut him off, bastards. What do you think you're doing? What are you doing? Right. I'll go back over to Newsmax. Don't you know? Let me crop this a little bit better. There we go. Oh, really? I don't know if it's just me. I think it's just me, but I think it's just the Rumble app on my tablet. I keep it up so I can monitor the chat, even though nobody ever says anything. But I don't know if it's just me or my tablet, but it keeps freezing. Like the app on this tablet sucks. It's either the app or my tablet. But I mean, it's a brand new Samsung Galaxy tablet, so. Yeah, I don't know. Is anybody else seeing some technical issues on my side? Is anybody else getting a lag or what? I'd really love the feedback because like I've been adjusting my settings while we're sitting here watching this, trying to fix it, but it keeps happening on my tablet. So I don't know if what I'm doing is making a difference. I don't know what you guys are seeing, if it's just, like I said, just on my end or what. So I'd really appreciate somebody commenting and letting me know what it looks like on your end. Literally everybody's in commercial. Yeah, literally everybody.
Please give now.
They felt the shaking.
That's
businesses and people are shaping the future.
A lot of fear here. Everybody's on commercial. Well, I guess if I ran commercials, now would be the time when I put them in there. But I don't. So I won't. Well. Whoops. Just waiting on somebody to come back from commercial. Ooh, what's this? Bloomberg.
Sufficient enough to cause problems, and you're seeing those problems. Cross-asset. Turn to the equity market. Yesterday, biggest one-day loss on the S&P 500 so far for the month of March since this war started. We come into Friday at 7-month lows, the lowest since early September. Futures extending losses, down another 0.4% on the S&P, on the Nasdaq by 0.6. In the bond market, unlocking higher bond yields, pushing higher again. The 10-year bond yield up 5 basis points, 446 on 10s. Where were we on Monday morning? Lower than where we are right now.
That's good then. We're making progress. But bueno.
Posting this message there on Truth Social, writing, quote, "As per Iranian government request, please let this statement serve to represent that I am pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6, 2026 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Talks are ongoing," he says. And goes on to say, despite erroneous statements to the contrary by the fake news media and others, they are going very well.
Newsmax senior correspondent John Huddy is live in Tel Aviv with the latest.
Drop a like if you would, please.
Yeah, and it's quieted down since the last time that we talked when sirens went off. There were several interceptions. The fourth Iranian missile salvo of the day, according to the IDF. These interceptions were over, from what we understand, central Israel. At least one of those missiles had cluster munitions, cluster bombs, as I was talking about during those interceptions. When this was happening, we've been seeing that quite a bit. No word of any damage, no word of any injuries. This is the IDF launched what's being described as yet another broad wave of strikes in Tehran and western Iran overnight and today, targeting Iran's ballistic missile manufacturing facilities, basically producing these ballistic missiles, and also the mobile launchers that they're firing these missiles with. And 330 of 470 ballistic missile launchers have been either destroyed or severely degraded to the point where they're either inaccessible, buried in these mountains where they've been stored by Iran, or they're just not capable of firing at this point. Before this operation, guys, it was estimated that Iran had about 2,500 ballistic missiles in its arsenal, and they were trying to basically double that number, if not more. The latest estimates that I've received from the IDF is that it's down to about 1,000. Some estimates maybe about 1,200, but again, that's kind of the rough estimate. It's a little bit unclear how many missiles they have, but look, their capabilities have not been eliminated. And the other threat, as we've been talking about and as I was describing earlier, these cluster munitions, these cluster bombs that they're using, that they load up the warheads with, they're basically deployed, they disperse over several miles, anywhere from 5 to 7 miles, and they could destroy a house, they could destroy an apartment, and they could kill people. And we have seen that over the last few weeks, and this past week alone, there was a lot of damage.
Hey, thanks for joining us. If you could, somebody please comment the quality of video that you're receiving. In particular, those of you on Rumble. I really could use the feedback because I've had some technical difficulties this morning, and I'm trying to resolve them because it's annoying the living piss out of me. And I'm sure if it's translating to you guys, I'm sure it's pretty aggravating as well for you. So I would really love it if somebody, anybody, everybody could tell me how the image looks on your end. If it's stuttering like it is on my tablet, is it just me? because, like, if it's just me, I can stop trying to, you know, change it and fix it and all that. So please, I really appreciate it if somebody could comment and tell me if there's any stuttering issues or choppy video. Rate the quality of the stream from 1 to 10. And this is just purely visual quality. Okay? Please, comment a number between 1 and 10. 1 being shit, 10 being no problem. Rate the quality of the stream. I'd really appreciate it.
Question here. What about Israel's air defenses and that capacity? Will that need to be replenished soon?
Well, Israel, let's put it this way. I asked a lot of IDF officials for the last couple of weeks about if they can sustain, you know, and the answer was a smile and we've prepared for this. Okay. So they're not exactly like telling how many missile interceptors they have, but on that note, as far as their multi-layered system, you have the Iron Dome, which takes out rockets. We saw that during the war in Gaza, also up north. You have David Sling, which takes out shorter range ballistic missiles at kind of a lower altitude. Then you have the Arrow 2, the Arrow 3, which is high altitude. I saw an Arrow 2 missile defense system, I believe it was last week. And then you have also U.S. Aegis and THAAD systems that have been deployed as well and that are helping you know, intercept these ballistic missiles. But Israel is perfectly capable of continuing to defend its, you know, to defend the country.
All right, John.
Yeah, you won't see him back up in front of a camera. That's kind of rule number 1 when you're in the news. You don't use words like and you know. And I'm pretty sure he used you know like 3 times. They don't really give you too much of a chance with that one. Not that anybody cares. I just thought it was funny.
We just heard from John Huddy on Iran, but before we get to the war, we need to hear what you both think about the Democrats folding the Senate voting overnight to fund broad areas of the Department of Homeland Security. The measure now moving on to the House. And it seems like, Cherie, the Democrats didn't really accomplish very much. Chuck Schumer is talking about holding the line. If anything, he was holding up the line.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
What do you make of what's going to happen with respect to this critical vote before Congress is out for their spring recess?
Yes, Krisha, the Democrats did.
Oh, they wanted to get it over with so they could enjoy their spring. I swear to God, these people should be docked pay. They shouldn't be allowed to be paid as long as things like this are going on. You know, I mean, the government's shut down. If it's shut down, then why should you be paid? What, you're not doing anything, you're shut down. It just blows my mind that these assholes continue on with this BS. I mean, if you were to dock their pay, you'd see a lot of changes happening. You'd see a lot of you would see them actually getting things done. Threaten my paycheck, I'm gonna get shit done too. You know, this seems like common sense, but common sense often eludes those in Washington.
Employing this strategy, they did so in the last government shutdown. Remember, they held up the government over the extension or lack thereof of those ACA tax subsidies, and they're doing it, and they were doing it in this situation because they wanted reforms to ICE, they wanted reforms to CBP,
which they didn't get,
and the other immigration enforcement agencies. They didn't get any of those reforms as the Senate did this overnight. So is this strategy for them working? Will they change course after the midterms? Who knows?
The framing that we've heard thus far of what has happened, it leads to a false conclusion. So they voted last night to fund DHS, but ICE is not funded. So they're not done discussing that.
Yeah, you know, hey, reform ICE, sure, fine. What's wrong with that? Go for it. But it shouldn't hold up all that it is. I mean, the Democrats have just had too many bartering chips, too much leverage, withholding too much. So I'm glad to hear that we got some form of resolution.
The rate is being restrictive. That's a Fed that's probably on hold for the foreseeable future. But somewhere in there, if oil goes high enough and activity weakens, the Fed may want to cut. So it's there is a convexity. We think it's around $125 a barrel. That as you move above that, you'll probably start seeing demand for oil and other products be destroyed. So we don't know quite where that level is, but that's the idea. Some oil means some inflation, means at least the Fed on hold for a prolonged period of time. Our forecast is in that world, the unemployment rate drifts a little higher and the Fed turns to rate cuts later this year. But that's, you know, we'll see how that goes.
We're kind of in the middle window right now.
Right. We are in the middle window.
Can we talk about where we are now and the prospect for a broadening out of price pressure? When you're around 110, 111, from the 60s, from the 70s, and you spike up that quickly, what is the prospect of the bleed through to other prices?
Well, the standard analysis here is you don't get bleed through to other prices, right? So the kind of the last 35 or so year history of the U.S. is that oil will be a headline inflation story. It destroys demand on the other side, therefore it doesn't pass through to core. So the history says you probably won't get it. But the story where you might get it is a combination of, well, we're 5 years above the 2% target. This is our third kind of consecutive supply shock. Is it the case that there will be second round effects, either because firms are seeing higher input costs, right? So in one way, there's a price story here, but there's also a quantity story. In the U.S., oil's available at a price. In other parts of the world, it's getting to the point where, as you noted, the difference between paper oil and physical oil.
Yeah, have y'all seen some of the videos of some of these foreign countries, like mostly in Asian countries like India and Thailand? It's getting wild out there for gas, but you know, these are countries that rely heavily on import anyway, so you could argue that they kind of did it to themselves, you know. Maybe you should tap some of that stuff that's in the ground beneath your feet instead of relying on, you know, foreign oil. You're at the mercy of every change in the market that there is. For whatever reason, though, they're piling up. Like I think I saw a video in Thailand where most people drive scooters. There's like Thailand and Vietnam and Cambodia, that area, which I'm actually moving to. There are more people on mopeds, like by far, than has cars, and there was I think they counted there were 600 scooters waiting outside of this one gas station. I'm pretty sure that one I saw was in Vietnam. But yeah, Thailand, Vietnam, and Cambodia, baby. Yep, I am moving there in just a couple of months. I am currently waiting on my a lot of things. Got to get my cat ready, but yeah, I mean, I'm moving there because your dollar goes way farther in these places. Just imagine you're in a store here in America, like a convenience store, and you walk in, and you got $5. You don't even know what you want. How many items do you think you could realistically expect to walk out of there with? Let's say one of those items was a soda. Well, there's $2 and maybe $2 and change gone, almost half of it right there. You're lucky to be able to get a little pack of candy or something with it. Not in Thailand. You can get so much with that $5 you can't carry it all. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. We are overcharged for everything here in America, and it isn't even funny. I mean everything. Everything. Well, I take that back. Gas and cigarettes are pretty much the same cost around the world. But other than that, that's pretty much the only thing that you're not overpaying for here in America. Here in America, this is the consumer nation. We are so heavily taxed, and I don't mean like actual taxes. I mean extra fees on top of things and the rising cost of everything. And at the same time, which is actually what's causing it, is how the Federal Reserve is just taking value from all of your dollars to begin with. And it's designed that way. This system is designed to milk you of every penny until the fat cats get theirs. That's the way it works here in America. Greatest country in the world, it is. But not for that reason. Why am I moving? Well, I'm moving because I'm getting older. And I had an idiot for a wife for almost 10 years who decided she'd rather go do meth and suck cocks. So, yep, done with her. And I've got various family members that have shown their true colors to me. And yeah, I've pretty much abandoned by some of my favorite family members. Because they allowed their politics to get in between us. Blood ain't thicker than water with some of these people. It's a shame, too. I find it to be a crying shame that people in this country have gotten so tribal. Like, what? Like, who are we? Who the heck? What? It really, like, when I was growing up as a kid, okay? I grew up in the 80s. When I was growing up, politics wasn't something, it wasn't dinner table conversation, you know what I mean? You asked somebody who they voted for, and they'd get mad and tell you none of your business. Not today. I think we should go back to that way of thinking. Because it's done nothing but poison our relationships. And it really does make me sad. It really makes me so sad that some of the people that I once held so near and dear to my heart and loved so much, unconditionally I might add, that I knew that their politics were different than my own, but I never cared. I don't. If I love you, and I don't care about those silly little differences. They don't make up the totality of your being. I mean, unless they do. But like I have an aunt, and she was. I use the past tense because she was my favorite aunt. And she's always been a bleeding heart liberal. She's an old hippie. She was in California in the 60s, you know what I'm saying? Like, the whole nine. And I never let it come between us. I never let it affect how I felt about her. And I never judged her for some of her moronic and dumbass beliefs. I never judged her. Boy, did she judge the shit out of me. Got her damn nose so high in the air. It's unbelievable. Anyway. Nobody gives a shit. Let's see what old Trump's talking about. I'm going to step out for one smoke, and I shall return.
Following military successes in epic fury, we have had multiple reach-outs from the region and others who want to play a role in
Drop a
ending
ticker
this conflict
symbol
peacefully.
if you want me to look something up.
I can report to you today that we
nobody
have,
commented
along with
a
your
rating
foreign
of the stream
policy
from 1 to
team,
10.
presented
Give a shit, 1 to 5.
15-point action
5 being
list
no problem.
that forms the
1 being
framework for a
shit.
peace deal. This
Terrible.
strong and positive messaging in talks, as you just indicated to the press. But these are sensitive diplomatic discussions, and you have directed us to maintain confidentiality on the specific terms and not negotiate through the news media as others do. I can say this: we will see where things lead, and if we can convince Iran that this is the inflection point with no good alternatives for them, other than more death and destruction. We have strong signs that this is a possibility, and if a deal happens, it will be great for the country of Iran, for the entire region, and the world at large. Your policy of peace through strength is the most effective tool for a diplomatic resolution here, just as this policy was an effective tool in each and every one of all of the other conflicts you settled in your first year. Iran is looking for an off-ramp following your powerful threat on Saturday. Your indications that you are willing to listen to peace proposals have been well received. You've instructed us that your preference is always peace, and that we should make that our priority. We have delivered that message, sir, along with the 15 points for peace. Finally, we have told Iran one last thing. Don't miscalculate again. Good. Thank you very much. Good job. Doing a great job. Everybody around this table is doing a great job. Pete Hegseth, please.
Mr. President. I'll start kind of where you left off, Mr. President. Thank you for doing the work of the free world and having the courage to step up and stop the Iranian terror regime from holding the world hostage. That's really what it is. And 27 days ago, Iran had a modern military. Never in recorded history has a nation's military been so quickly and effectively neutralized. Operation Epic Fury is not an endless war. It's a decisive campaign with clear objectives to destroy.
Barrage of rockets yesterday, the day before, killing 2 people this week, 2 civilians in the north, as the IDF expands its ground operations in southern Lebanon, striking Hezbollah in the south of Lebanon and also southern Beirut, a Hezbollah stronghold. And today, the Houthis still waiting in the wings there, Shannon. A Houthi senior commander telling Reuters the Houthis are ready to join in on this fight. They haven't so far, but now that may be happening. We'll keep you posted.
Shannon? Yeah, they just as recently as 48 hours ago, they said they'd back Iran, but stay on the sidelines. Now they may engage in the Red Sea. That is a major headline. Also, John, Hezbollah refusing talks, any kind of peace negotiation with Israel. So that conflict, if you tease it out from the rest of the ongoing conflict in Iran, the back and forth in the region, that's not ending anytime soon either.
No, in fact, the IDF was granted approval by the Israeli government to call up a maximum of 400,000 Army reservists because of this ongoing multi-front fight. And even when the Iranian operation wraps up, whenever that is, whether it's a couple weeks or a couple months, I've heard various estimates, Hezbollah will continue to be a problem for Israel, and Israel now pushing even deeper into southern Lebanon, even north of the Litani River, which was basically the borderline between kind of the Beirut area, southern Lebanon. So now those forces really span, reaching out, pushing out even further. Shannon.
Which is why they're pushing into that area. John Huddy, great reporting as always. Stay safe. I want to welcome in now retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General and Newsmax contributor General Blaine Holt. General, good to see you. You hear John Huddy's reporting. Cluster munitions supposed to be illegal under international law. Continue to be used,
not.
raining down on Israel this morning. Meanwhile, the president pushing back this deadline to take out Iran's energy infrastructure. Here's the Truth Social post one more time. Iran has 10 more days to negotiate, he wrote. At the same time, the Pentagon is also weighing sending 10,000 more troops to the region. So is the 10 days really buying us time to get our troops in place? Is that what's happening here?
Maybe.
It's helpful. I mean, there's no question about it. Every day that goes by, we only up our advantage. And now you're seeing the Emirates and Saudi Arabia that they're interested in building a coalition to force the straits open. That's
damn
critical.
right they are.
So here's the big thing, though, and I think John Huddy touched on it so well. You have these proxies. And so if you don't kill this regime, and I mean kill it, and I think the president's honestly negotiating with what a future government looks like.
Guys, I saw last night where the Supreme Court struck down the action that was being taken against Anthropic, the AI company that refused to allow the government, our government, to use AI on the battlefield. They tried to blacklist Anthropic because, when you don't cooperate with the government, that's almost a final nail in a coffin. But I know I'm being vague because I don't want to mischaracterize it, but Anthropic basically has a chance now to make a comeback. They are not yet even listed in the market, but they could very well be on their way to being listed because of this move. So I found that interesting. Let's go over to Euro news. Oh, I already know what they're talking about. Trends in sports, since the The Olympics Committee or whatever, the International Olympics Community just recently banned transgender women from playing in women's Olympic games, which is, yes, good. I can't believe that we have these dumbass debates on this dumbass planet. But hot button topics, just stupid. Of course you shouldn't. And what they need to do is go a step further and quit calling them transgender women. They're men. They have penises.
Athlete must be treated with dignity and respect, and athletes will only need to be screened once in their lifetime.
Yeah, show us your penis. Fucking stupid ass planet.
And so every day we've got another advantage that we can bring, and the Marines are going to be there shortly.
I'm going to go over to Bloomberg, see what we've got going on in the money world. That's my jam. That's my jam, baby. Yep. They're doing what they're always doing. Sitting in commercial. Oh, yeah. So, anybody got any investments they want to talk about? You got anything you want me to pull up? Just say the word, baby. I'll be happy to pull up whatever.
He is carrying and the questions that still haunt her. That's still ahead.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During
It's interesting when they start talking about stuff like this. Very interesting. Oh boy, what are we talking about here?
Alongside them as part of the team. We've heard men cite how a woman helped them get through Ranger School. Senior enlisted and officer leaders have testified that women have helped, not hurt, the effectiveness of our combat forces. 5 years of studies show women are succeeding in ground combat units so thoroughly that they stopped doing the studies. And we've heard reports from the field that having women in the ranks also motivates men to raise their game.
What are we talking about?
Women have made our fighting force stronger, better.
I don't think anybody's denying that.
The last thing we need for our fighting forces is to disqualify people based on ideology and prejudice, especially from a secretary who, as it was quoted in the New York Times this morning, wouldn't stand next to a black female general.
Oh, come on.
These
things don't happen in the numbers that some of these people think, some of these people suggest. People act like this shit's everywhere. It's not. And if it's everywhere for you, then you should probably reevaluate your priorities. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's just not at the level that some of these people suggest. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm bored. I'm going to find some other news to pull up because there's not much that's satisfying me, baby. Baby. Hoo! I could start singing, but then I'm sure I would lose lots of followers.
The deal comes or does not include money for ICE and Customs and Border Patrol. And Democrats, they pretty much walked away without those concessions they wanted. They wanted a no-mask policy for ICE. They didn't get those. Now the House has to move pretty quickly to get this thing passed and get it to the president's desk before the recess begins. Congressional correspondent Kilmany Ducart is on the Hill reading the tea leaves this morning and chatting with folks in the hallways.
Shannon, good to be with you. You know, when I left the Capitol early evening yesterday, they had continued to hold that procedural vote open in the Senate. There were some negotiations happening. Secretary Mark Wade Mullen, the new DHS secretary, was on Capitol Hill engaging in these negotiations. And the last thing that I had heard from Republican Senator Katie Britt, who was very involved with, again, brokering a deal with Democrats on some of these ICE reforms, the latest latest deal on the table from Republicans was funding DHS without ICE, with some reforms that they had already agreed to. What they ended up with, and she had told me specifically that if Democrats wanted more reforms than that, they would need to fund ICE and CBP. What they have walked away with at this point is absolutely nothing. This is DHS funding without funding for ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, which Republicans in the Senate plan to tackle through the reconciliation process. That is going to be, of course, a little bit easier to do than what they had talked about with Plan B, which was funding all of DHS through the reconciliation process. And of course, reconciliation is all budgetary. They have to find cost offsets, and that is something that they.
I'm pulling up Asia news.
Hello and welcome to Perspective. My name is Tom Philpott. So Iran appears to be heavily reliant on drone swarms as compared to traditional missiles. What does this shift tell us about how modern warfare is evolving?
Iran's heavy emphasis on drone swarms over traditional ballistic missiles or cruise missiles is one of the strongest indicators we have right now that modern warfare is shifting.
All right, we've got about 12 minutes until market opening. And let's see, Bitcoin is sitting or below 67,000, probably on its way down a little bit further. I think the bottom is going to be closer to 50,000, just because historically speaking, those are the types of bear markets we usually get. Ethereum following suit. The U.S. dollar looking very strong. It's strong when it stays around this 100 mark here. And, of course, since the dollar is strong, gold and silver are just kind of stagnant. I do believe we may see silver go closer to $50 before this is all said and done. The war, obviously, is keeping these prices down. Crude oil, on the other hand, these are futures, by the way. What I just showed you aren't the values of gold, silver, or oil. These are the futures market speculation, you know. So crude still looking like it's probably going to go up. This pause that Trump has initiated has just got everything in limbo. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 are all looking pretty piss poor. And as you can see, my red list over here, which these are companies that SpaceX deals with. These are suppliers to SpaceX. And I have these here because the SpaceX IPO is likely going to launch this year. It's likely going to launch around June. That's been the general consensus. And if you want to get in on the action before the actual IPO, I would suggest you look into these companies. SpaceX deals with over 2,000 various companies, but these are probably the best ones to look at. You've got Broadcom, which has always been a strong stock. You've got ST Microelectronics. You've got Astronics. Love the name. Of course, you've got NVIDIA. And then you've got this company, and I'm not sure which ticker best represents it, but Bastille. This is where SpaceX gets the majority of their steel, and probably other metals as well that they need. It's a South Korean company that you cannot invest in through American outlets. You have to go to the Korean market. I'm not the person to ask about that. I've never invested in any foreign market, but if anybody has, I welcome your comment in explaining how one might do that. I'm sure it's not too very difficult, but it's always good to explain something, even if you think everybody knows already, just for those who are too scared to ask. So far in pre-market, we've got a lot of red, a lot of gray. Everybody is just waiting to see what happens in the world. Energy's back up. We're seeing this flip-flopping. If energy's up, everything else is red or gray for that matter, and flat. And, the inverse is also true. Earlier this week, we had a pretty green day for everything but energy. And that's how that goes. That's the trade-off during times of war. I have noticed that companies, military contract companies such as Lockheed Martin and like Palantir, now they're not military contract companies, right? That's not all they do, but they do profit during times of war, because they make shit that we use during wartime. So they haven't really, those two companies, Lockheed Martin and Palantir, haven't really been doing so well the last few days. I'm going to pull up Palantir. And I'm going to pull up Lockheed Martin. Now, these might be decent buys for long term. I don't know. Maybe not quite yet. Maybe let Palantir come down a little bit more, huh? Get rid of the red list there. Put the news related to them. All of my charts, when you see news to the side of it, the news is focused mainly on the ticker symbol. That's how I got it set up, at least. Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin's looking strong. I want to pull up some info on Lockheed Martin over here. Yeah, they're looking strong as usual. Sell. Yeah, neutral. Lockheed Martin's always been a decent investment. Right, we'll go back to Asia news.
This has been striving to dominate over the global energy markets. Well, speaking to France televisions on Thursday, Lavrov cited Venezuela, where Washington has effectively taken under control of the world's largest oil reserves, and now it sees control of the Nord Stream gas pipelines in the Baltic Sea. The Nord Stream gas pipelines were damaged in September 2022, which largely severed Russian gas transit to Europe. Investigators have arrested a Ukrainian man on suspicion of coordinating the attacks. Well, the Wall Street Journal reported in 2024 that an American investor called Stephen P. Lynch was seeking to buy the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, one line which remains intact.
I'm going to pull up Supermicro.
The Indus Water Treaty continues to govern water distribution between
Michael
India and
Saylor's
Pakistan,
company.
despite India's unilateral abeyance. Well, arbitration proceedings are currently examining India's compliance with hydropower provisions, and the treaty remains a key framework for managing water resources and maintaining stability in South Asia.
The Indus Waters Treaty, brokered by the World Bank on September 19, 1960, divides the Indus River system between India and Pakistan. Pakistan controls the western rivers Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab, while India controls the eastern rivers Ravi Base and Sutlej. Although designed to protect downstream water rights, decades of upstream hydropower development in India have caused river fragmentation, silt loss, and delta degradation. On World Water Day, March 22nd, Pakistan called on India to immediately restore the Indus Waters Treaty, condemning New Delhi's unilateral suspension. Speaking via video at a high-level UN event in New York, Federal Minister for Climate Change, Dr. Musaddiq Malik warned that India's actions threaten water security, agriculture, and livelihoods for millions.
25 to 30% of our GDP is associated with agriculture. 50% of our employment is related to agriculture, and 100% of our food security is all agriculture. So when we mess with water, we mess with our economic growth, we mess with our food security, and we mess with the livelihood
On March 25th at the
That's
UN
true.
in New York, Pakistan's Second Secretary Alina Majid rejected India's claims linking the treaty suspension to terrorism, calling them entirely baseless. Islamabad stressed that the treaty remains fully valid and binding under international law. Officials also highlighted the human impact, noting that over 60% of Pakistan's agricultural workforce, primarily women, depends on the Indus.
Such actions amount to the weaponization of water for narrow political gains, jeopardizing the lifelines of millions. We recall that the Court of Arbitration has found in its supplemental award in 2025 that its competence remains intact. This award has confirmed that the treaty remains in force, its dispute settlement mechanisms remain binding, and no party has the legal authority to unilaterally suspend or render it inoperative. India must revert immediately to full and complete implementation of the Indus Water Treaty.
With rising water demand and environmental pressures, Pakistan emphasizes that full compliance with the Indus Waters Treaty is essential to safeguard livelihoods, agriculture, and regional stability, underlining the crucial role.
I'll tell you what India needs to do. They need a bath. That country needs a bath. Don't ever go to India. And if you do, don't eat the street food. Those people put their feet in everything.
I'm Craig Vermey. A new chapter.
Did I mention they stank? It's true. It's true. I've worked for Indians before. And they are an interesting people. Oh no. Let's see what the jackass mayor of New York has to say.
I think that rallies are an incredibly effective way for New Yorkers to both organize together and make it clear what their vision is for this city, for this state, for this country.
Oh, my
And I
vision
think
is
that what
you
we've
get the
seen is that there's an attempt to make many in our city feel as if they are alone when they believe that ICE has no place in our city. When they
You have no
that
place
every
in that
single
city.
New Yorker who lives in this city belongs in this city and should be made to feel as if such.
You
and
have
what these
no
rallies
right-
are also an opportunity to realize that you are not in the minority when you have those beliefs. You are in fact one of a part of a growing
This
coalition
piece of human
people
garbage.
who want to see a shred of
This
decency.
piece of human garbage. He's so full of shit. He is garbage. He should be thrown into the East River. Or perhaps off the top of the Statue of Liberty. All right, we're about a minute or two away from the opening bell.
We had been, prior to tariffs, prior to any of this, we had been on a journey to diversify our footprint out of China. So probably 2-ish years ago, roughly 65% of our toy and game volume was coming from China. Today, as we entered into 2025, that was around 50%. All we've done is really accelerate the path to get down to roughly, call it 30% by the time we enter into 2027.
Just a few moments before the opening bell.
Have so much of your manufacturing base centered on one geography. We think the diversification is good, but it does take a bit of time to get vendors and suppliers up to speed. Quality is a big deal, especially when you're dealing with toys and kids. It's not an instantaneous thing, but it's not also a 5-year, have to build a new plant from scratch.
Democrats to hold our country hostage any longer.
Welcome to Bloomberg This Weekend. I'm David Gura.
I'm Lisa Mateo.
And I'm Christina Raffiti. We're tracking breaking news today
Come
from Wall
on,
Street
man.
to Washington.
Let's get to the bell. It's coming.
Bloomberg This Weekend, bringing a little Bloomberg into your weekend routine. Watch, listen, stream. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We'll show you what's happening in ETFs like no one else. ETF IQ, only on
There's
Bloomberg.
the bell. There's the bell.
Just seconds away until the start of your trading day. You are watching Bloomberg Open Interest. I'm Danny Berger. Matt has left me alone until Tuesday. He'll be back. A tough week. We were headed for a weekly gain. That reverses yesterday. Now headed for the 5th weekly loss since 2022. S&P down 0.5%. NASDAQ underperformed, some drama going on with tech too. And as yields inch towards 4.5%, the Russell 2000 also down 0.6%. At the opening bell, we have a SPAC. SPACs are back. We might not be at highs for markets. It might not be bubbly or frothy, but you know, maybe it's a sign that we're still getting SPACs. I believe they are just listing now the blank check company, Kensington. Kensington. And then finally, Xanadu, this is a quantum computing company. I swear, I did not realize how many small quantum computing companies are out there. This one happens to be a Canadian one, but I feel like it's like at least once a week we get one of these at the opening bell. So there you have it. I'm going to look at a different part of tech here, though, at the opening bell. Look at what these cybersecurity stocks are doing. CrowdStrike, Palo Alto, Cloudflare, Zscaler, all of them down at least 3%, and as bad as 6.5% in the case of Palo Alto. It's a concern coming from a Fortune report that said Anthropic is testing a new AI model that poses significant cybersecurity risks. We thought cybersecurity was one of the safer parts of software just because of how integrated it needs to be. Maybe it's not with all the AI. Carnival also reporting estimates results that beat expectations. Shares are still down 3%. CEO Josh Weinstein says the company delivered a strong start to the year, driven by healthy fundamentals and solid execution across the business. But maybe the greater concern is what's happening in oil markets. Let's go back over the desk, because joining us now and
this is oil.
Sitting here patiently waiting is Sarah Hunt, Chief Market Strategist at Alpine Saxon Woods. Sarah, great to see you this morning. Thanks for joining. Just staying on the idea of Carnival earnings, because it's still down and there's been so much sour sentiment towards travel stocks because of fuel, because of consumer appetite. How are you looking at the sector as the war drags on? Is this a place that you can play in this market?
I think that ultimately we've seen when you get shocks like this, the stocks have a bad reaction, and if things resolve themselves, but also in general, they will tend to bounce back. The question is it too early to start that? And I don't know that we know the answer yet. It's certainly a good time to be looking at these and choosing what you would like to be in when you sort of feel like there's some sort of stabilization. But for the most part, you want to look at balance sheets, you want to look at cash flow and understand, can they get through some sort of period of softness? But generally speaking, that's generally been a good opportunity to look at
the thing that I'm kind of struggling with is you want to look for a safe balance sheet and where cash is to protect you and safety. And that's brought up with a lot of people saying maybe big tech is the place for safety. But I'm also looking at the NASDAQ this morning, down 0.7%, which means it's now in a correction, down 10% from its October highs. What do you make of this? Is this not currently a nice little safe, cozy place to hide out in the midst of geopolitical strife?
So this is definitely a time frame issue, right? Because we came into this year on valuations that were pretty high, looking for a year where you thought you were going to see expanded capex and things were going to move along and the economy was okay and labor markets were okay. And now we have a number of exogenous shocks, including what's going on with Iran. Interest rates have gone higher. There's a number of things going on. Private credit is having some problems. There are a number of things that are going on. So from a longer term perspective, are those good places to be? Yes, they are. Can they have some near term pain? Absolutely. Because you see that the growth issues are there's a lot of concern about that, and then interest rates add to that. So I think in the near term, they're a little bit stuck, but longer term, not so much.
By the way, it does feel like whack-a-mole. Private credit, concerns of geopolitics, what AI is doing in general tech. I mean, on the AI point, I mentioned this before, that Fortune had out some story about Anthropic releasing a new model that seemingly is putting pressure on cybersecurity stocks. I thought we were past this, Sarah, that we were past the world that like one tiny announcement comes out and it crushes stocks. What do you make of the fact that we're still so sensitive to AI disruption for software?
I think that the general level of uncertainty and all of the things that are going on makes everybody especially sensitive. I think absent some of the other things that maybe people would look through that. But with AI, that revolving threat has been going after different segments of software, different segments of other things, and people get really worried about it. And then you already have reasons, I think, to the extent that sometimes when there looks like there's a relief to the situation, the market wants to go higher, tells you people want to buy. The fact that they're so sensitive to things also tells you that people are worried, and they're worried about valuations. So it's easy to see sectors get moved around, which is, again, a time frame issue. Because from a longer perspective, I don't think it's much of a problem. On a near-term perspective, it obviously has some sensitivity.
And it's a good point, because we had also been hearing in terms of the time frame issue that people came in before the war broke out, that they were short some of these tech stocks. War breaks out, they get low to the ground, so they unwind a lot of those shorts and they rally. Maybe that's over and they can add back. How much are you looking at general market positioning as driving where we are right now versus fundamentals?
Well, I think that this was one of the big issues about coming into this year. We expected some volatility. We didn't expect this much volatility, and I don't think anybody had this on their bingo card of what was going to happen. But I think that you had people positioned for, again, some pretty benign outcomes, and I think right now we're looking at some pretty we're looking at the potential for some outcomes that are less benign than we started the year with. So I think that gives you some problems. And as people work through those, then you start to see some room and some possibility. You also don't want to get to the point where everything is so short, you could end up with a short squeeze. That can happen in a lot of different sectors. So I think you want to look at positioning because it gives you an idea of where people are starting and how much room there is.
There is also a continued sell-off, and it's actually a curve steepening today. The 10-year yield is up 5 basis points at 446. It's easily up 0.5% since the war broke out. As we creep closer to 4.5%, do certain trades start to become under pressure? Does a 10-year yield at 4.5% break anything?
I think in the same reason that does oil at any X price break anything, the question is, are we staying at these levels or have we run to these levels because of what's going on right now? And I don't know what the answer is. If we stay at these levels, it could be a problem for all the things we've talked about. Certainly the small cap trade that was having trouble in the beginning of the year as people were starting to worry about what was going to happen. I think that there is always a reason to think that there could be problems. The question really is how long does it stay there? And I don't think we know the answer to that yet. But the longer this goes on, the more it feels sustained.
Do we have an answer to the length at which it becomes a problem? Is this like it needs to last a year? Is it months? Because we've seen that corporate America is incredibly resilient. I mean, Barclays was just on surveillance raising their price target, saying that the fundamentals and the bottom up look really strong. So how well equipped is corporate America to weather through any sort of sustained energy price increases?
I think the combination of higher energy prices and higher interest rates is much harder. But I also think that if you got some sort of a resolution where at least you started to see things transit through the strait, right? Because I don't know what else the resolution is going to be, but you have to see energy start to move for those prices to come down. If that comes down and it takes interest rates with it, then I think that you don't really have that much of a problem. And corporate America is enormously resilient and has managed to, I go back to when they started raising interest rates to begin with off of zero. And everyone said, well, we're going to crush the economy because we've gone from zero to where we are. I think that there is a lot of resiliency there. I think there was some dry powder there.
All right. It looks like our biggest wieners of the day are Artello Biosciences, Onconitex, Argan, Robin Energy, Nortec Systems, and Battalion Oil. Go figure. Our biggest losers are Datacentrix, Epic Quest, OnCure, Amplitech, Firefly, Zenus, Biopharma. It looks like the gains are better than the losses. I would call that a win. But by and large, the market is vastly red, as you can see here. The S&P 500. Let's take a look at the Russell 1000. It's a mixed bag. Look at the Russell 3000. A lot of red. NASDAQ 100. NASDAQ Composite. And the Dow Jones Industrial. All U.S. companies. It is mostly red and gray. Gray is flat. But that's all on market cap. See, volume tells a different story. Wow, look at this. Look at some of these companies' volume for the day. Wow. Looks like people aren't afraid to drop some money. I mean, a lot of this is just buying the dip. Light blue is higher numbers, dark blue is a lower, and gray is none. And this is relative volume for the day. I don't typically leave this one up. I tend to stay with the volume over the last hour, 4 hours, and the day. But there's only been a few minutes into the day, so we'll keep it on first on the hour, baby. But I'm going to go back to the S&P 500 rather than every single company. There's a lot of red in certain sectors, right? In the tech and finance sector mainly. Of course, you've got your consumer services and durables. Energy's up. Electronics, a mixed bag. Retail, trade, and health, mixed bag. Bitcoin, struggling. I do believe we're going to see Bitcoin come down further. I would not be surprised if it ran all the way down into the 50s, honestly. That would pair up with historically how bear markets tend to be. I mean, you know, here's my trend line. And as you can see, I didn't really start it at the best point, but I tried to keep it with the most common, you know what I'm saying? Like this was the most obvious pattern that could emerge. So yeah, I mean, you know, according to this, we could go down into about 57 range. There's been some other people that I watch on YouTube that have called it coming down into the 30s and 40s. I don't see that. It could happen, but I doubt it. You know, 40,000 is here. 30,000 is here. If it broke that trend line, then it could go all the way down to here, which, come on, that's probably not going to happen. But next bull market's going to be quite tasty indeed, baby. I hope you guys are getting your priorities straight. Bitcoin is the way. I put out several videos the other day. A few short videos that were excerpts of one longer video that is currently in my on my channel. I would highly encourage you to watch it. Whether you believe in Bitcoin or not, it breaks down a few of the fundamental reasons why I think Bitcoin is the future of global finance. But yeah, I forget what the name of the video is. I changed the name a few times. It's got a purple thumbnail, and me in I've got sunglasses and a red hoodie on. But yeah, I would encourage everybody to watch that video because I dropped a lot of good information in there about Bitcoin and why it is what it is, how it works, a little bit of how it works, but why it's better than fiat currency, and why fiat currency is an instrument of the elite designed to rob you. That's the end of that statement. It's built that way. You know. Anyway, yeah, I would suggest that you go watch that video because I take great pride in that video. Trump extends partial ceasefire till April 6th. Yep. And of course, you got the taco crowd out there who won't shut up. Taco, taco, taco. They just love capitalizing on the news of the day. Every aha moment they think they've got, they jump right on. And then what happens the next day, the story changes. Like, you know, have some perspective, people. Zoom out. We shouldn't be commenting on the activities of the day and speculating on what it means for the bigger picture. Because, you know, you and I, we don't have all the information. We never will. And anybody who thinks they got it all figured out is delusional. I mean, you know, you're free to have your opinions, but without proper information, your opinion's worthless. You know, like, you're not going to find me commenting too much on what I think is really going on and what it means and all that. Nah. I mean, you know, I'm a lowly peasant. I'm not privy to all the information that our leaders are. So, yeah, our leaders have a bit of an edge in the information department. So, you know, any of those people that want to say Trump didn't have a plan, okay. They said the same thing about Venezuela. Turns out the plan was to prevent China and Russia having a leg up on us in the Western Hemisphere. The plan was to cut China off from its cheap oil and cheap silver it was getting from Latin America. The plan was to take Greenland. Why? Not because Trump has ridiculous ambitions, not because you don't understand it, but because that's another strategic foothold into the Western Hemisphere that we should not be allowing China and Russia to have any part of. When in fact, Denmark has been allowing China to come into Greenland and have exclusive access to rare earth minerals at ridiculously cheap prices. We don't want that. Trust me, we don't want that. Russia, China, and Iran have been plotting to unpeg the petrodollar as a world reserve currency. Do you understand what would happen if that were allowed to take place? Is it right? Is it wrong? I'm not here to debate that. What the fact is that every time America has some sort of financial hardship or any kind of recessionary, anything bad, in our economy, what happens? It reverberates across the world at various levels of magnitude. You see other countries' currencies sometimes fully collapsing because our needle moved a hair. So, what do you think would happen if they unpegged the petrodollar as a world reserve currency? It would be absolute chaos for the world, for everybody except Russia, China, and Japan. And what do you think they would do with that newly found power that it would grant them? It won't be good. So, all these people who say Trump didn't have a plan, motherfucker, you don't have a brain. These things are easy enough to see. You just have to, be willing to hear information that might not vibe with what you want to be true. People and their fucking biases. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Open your eyes. Just open your eyes. Take in information from various sources. These things will find their way into the empty walnut up there, buddy. Like, it pisses me off to no end that people would rather ignore certain facts so that they can stroke their ego. Break an arm, jerking yourself off. It's unbelievable to me. So, am I for this war in Iran? You're goddamn right I am. You're goddamn right I am for death to the Islamic Republic of Iran, if for no other reason than to liberate the women and the wonderful people of Iran. Iranians are great people. This Islamic Republic garbage that they've got needs to go. It really needs to go. If for no other reason than the people, their own people, they've murdered, tortured, raped in prison. If for no other reason than to liberate the women so that they can actually live fulfilling lives and not have to cover their faces in public and, be allowed to sing and dance in public without fear of being prosecuted or hung or beaten or raped. These are basic human things. These are basic things that Iran had in the 70s. Look up any pictures you want of Iran in the 70s. The Islamic Republic of Iran needs to die. And I'm not afraid to say it. You can go ahead and throw in there their contribution to terrorism. That's just another reason. You can also throw in there their ridiculous theocratic nonsense that has no place in government at all, of any kind, not just Islam. The theocratic BS does not belong in any government system. No theocratic nonsense, no religion belongs in any government. That's my opinion. When that happens, you end up with retarded shit like you see in Iran. And it goes unchecked for decades. The result is what you've... Iran is the poster child of the retardation that comes from a theocracy. We as human beings are better than that. We're not cavemen anymore. It's time to grow up. Theocracy does not belong in government. Period. The end. That's it. None. None. Anywhere. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. Sorry. I'm very passionate about this. I think it's horrible what Iran has done with their people. I mean, every day, every time I turn around, every day there's some new story about some protester being hung or just some unjust act of cruelty. It makes me sad that this kind of BS happens in the world. And if you're against this war, the only reason you could possibly be against it is something Donald Trump. Like, where are these people's morals? Like, where, I mean, yeah, we shouldn't be getting involved in other countries' issues. I do feel that way. Generally speaking, I do feel that we should, as a country, mind our own damn business when it comes to the affairs of other countries. Yes, I definitely agree with that sentiment. However, we are in a unique position in America to where we have the ability to help those who desperately need it. And Iran, the people of Iran do desperately need it. We are in a very unique position of power where we have the ability to do these things. Now, when you have the ability to help and you choose not to, well, there's something wrong with that too. And if I had my way, these people would sort their things out. But they've had 50 years, damn near 50 years. And the Iranian people have protested and protested and protested for decades, and the only thing they get out of it is a few family members less, more atrocities committed on their own people, and of course, state-sponsored terrorism. You know, when all of their neighbors want them to die, you know something's going on. You know something's wrong there. I don't care how you feel about Israel. Love them or hate them. I don't give a shit. But the fact remains, without even considering Israel, the fact remains that the Islamic Republic of Iran needs to die. It needs to be crushed. It needs to be wiped off the face of the planet. Buried and forgotten forever. With no hope of coming back. Ever. And that smug bitch who put videos out talking shit, making fun of Trump and saying, you know, we were running and hiding. Yeah, that smug, he's going to get his. If he's not dead already, I saw somewhere where he was dead, but I can't verify that source. It wasn't a trustworthy source, so, you know, I haven't heard about it in the news yet, and that seems like something somebody would be quick to announce, and you probably won't get that out of any liberal media source because, you know, the liberal media source, you know, if it's not against Trump, they've got nothing to say about it. Which also brings me to, you know, we've got midterms coming. And there's a lot of people talking about a blue wave that's coming and all the seats that are being flipped to Democrats. And you know what? If that happens, fine. That's what this country affords us, right? The ability to constantly change leadership so that the newest and freshest ideas are always put forth. It's what the people want, right? Okay, all right. But I would like, I task any of you watching to name just one policy that any Democrat that's running currently, one policy that they've got, that they're running on, that doesn't include the words Donald and Trump. I would love for somebody to give me one. Now, I asked this question yesterday on Facebook, and you know what I got back? I got the answers I got back. Green New Deal. student loan forgiveness. You name it. They threw it all in the chat. As if I didn't very easily smack it down, because these are things that Democrats have ran on before and won and had the ability to implement. Did they? No. These points, these policy points that have been mentioned in the past, they sound good most of the time, but they don't ever happen. They lie to you and make promises they can't keep. Then they get into office, and then their agenda really comes out. But that's not just a quality of Democrats. That's all politicians. And one Mr. Donald Trump, I swear to God, he probably is going to go down in history as the one president who upheld most of the campaign promises he made. I'm sure somebody out there wants to scream, "But you said no new wars." Yeah, you sure did. And you know what? I'm not in favor of any new wars. But, big but, this is the one war that is entirely justified. For the number of reasons I mentioned earlier. If not just for the liberation of their women. You've also got the China and Russia thing. You've also, and that's a rat's nest in and of itself. Strategically, Iran and Venezuela and Greenland, strategically, they're all brilliant. And you just have to give Trump credit where it's due. I'm sorry if you don't like it. Now, I can't say that I support everything the man does. I'm not one of these people. I'm not a MAGA Republican. I don't want to blow the man, for Christ's sake. There's a lot of things he does that I don't like. But most of those things are inconsequential. Like, he's not a very good public speaker. Does that matter? Not really. Yeah, there's several things that don't even matter, that I don't like about him. But hey, man, he's doing the job that he got, that he isn't even being paid to do. Anyway, all right, I'm done with with my rant. Is this Zorro Momdami asshole done speaking? Let's see.
Quality of life. This summer, we have the opportunity where the world is going to come to New York. And instead of just talking about their experience at the arena, at the stadium, they're going to be talking to their friends about how they got there and how they traveled around our city. And this improvement that's been in the works for over 2 years is going to really change people's commitment to cycling. We always have a conversation in my office that says one block that doesn't have a bike lane.
Oh, who cares? What? Shit. I hit the wrong button. Woo, man, people are going to get pissy when they find out Donald Trump's name is going to be on our money. I think what I read was they're taking the treasurer's name off and putting Donald Trump's on. Oh, doesn't it just burn you up? That's what I'm laughing at. I'm laughing at it because I know somebody's crying over it like a bitch. Some of the losers in this country are hilarious. What do we have here? What's Euro News saying? Not much of anything, apparently.
Euro News. The news.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced late on Thursday that he's extending his deadline for Iran to reopen the crucial Strait of Hormuz by 10 days, reportedly in response to an Iranian government request. In a post on his own social media platform Truth Social, Trump revealed that talks with Tehran to end the war are, quote, going very well, despite what he said.
I've heard all this. They're just repeating things. They start repeating things and you know there's not much in the news. But I am still looking. What?
The IOC announcing a new policy banning transgender women, biological males, from competing in women's.
There's nothing new going on, apparently. And if you're just joining us, it's a nice, boring Friday. I was hoping for more today.
And the World Bank says it's ready to provide rapid financial support to countries affected by the Middle East conflict, and the aid aims to ease energy shortages and supply disruptions.
That's my jam. All right. Oh, right when he starts.
Welcome back to Asia One. Now, the US President Donald Trump has halted planned strikes on Iran's energy plants, announcing a 10-day pause as negotiations with Tehran gain momentum. Well, Trump says he is pausing attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure for 10 days, following a request from Tehran. In a Truth Social post, Trump confirmed the halt will remain in place until April 6th, calling it part of ongoing negotiations that he claims are going very well. Well, the decision comes after escalating threats to target Iran's power plants, marking a temporary shift from military pressure to diplomacy. Now, while tensions remain high across the entire region,
prices at the pumps and rattled global markets.
Israeli strikes hit Tehran and Beirut early Friday, with smoke seen billowing from the southern suburbs of the Lebanese capital. The Israeli military has called for the immediate evacuation of Sojud village in southern Lebanon, warning of imminent attack against Hezbollah. Hezbollah fighters continued attacks on Israeli troops in southern Lebanon, where Israel.
All right, guys, let's give them one last run through into what's going on, and then I'm going to call it a day. All the major important trading goes on in the first 30 minutes to an hour. Being that we're 30 minutes into the market and this is basically the result, there's no real new news going on. It's all what we already know. Let me get this off the screen a little bit so you can see. So, S&P 500 is looking like a mixed bag. And it's, it's been that way all week long, right? Here's your performance for the week. It looks damn near similar to the performance of the day. The hour as well. In the crypto world, in the last hour, things are looking pretty flat. In the last 4 hours, Bitcoin itself down, everything else flat. I do believe we're going to see Bitcoin come down a little more, probably into the 50s. Of course, Ethereum will follow suit. If it doesn't, that divergence would be damn sure would be worth paying attention to. The US dollar is looking good. It's come down a little bit, which also would turn around and allow for gold and silver to go up a little bit. I don't think we have much to look forward to in the near term for gold and silver. I feel like they'll probably, silver in particular, probably continue to come down towards the $50 mark, but I don't think it'll go much lower than that. Oil, we probably are going to go up above $100 a barrel if this war goes on for much longer. I think the top will be somewhere about $130, $150 a barrel, depending on, obviously, the circumstances of this war, which are yet to unfold. So it's a little difficult to give too much of a speculation on it until we know a little bit more. But as you can see, it is currently running up, slowly but surely. The S&P 500 has a nice big loss this is the monthly candle. Palantir pretty much shitting the bed. Lockheed Martin trying to recover a little bit of its losses. Nvidia shitting the bed, along with all these other companies that I've got in my watch list, except for one or two of them. Pretty sure, well, they're all down. Huh. Supermicro Computer, Michael Saylor's company, looking okay considering it lost 30% of its value last week when those former employees or current employees, I'm not really sure, when they got busted smuggling chips into China. Whew. Yeah, they're likely never going to see the light of day again. The NASDAQ took a good plunge today. And that's it. I'm going to go over to Mr. Trump. What's he say?
Almost
recorded earlier.
8 big tankers are going loaded up with oil right through. And I said, well, I guess they were right, and they were real. And I think they were Pakistani flagged.
Oh, yeah.
And
heard this earlier.
I said, well, I guess we're dealing with the right people. And actually, they then apologized for something they said, and they said, we're going to send 2 more boats. And it ended up being 10 boats. All right. I hope I haven't screwed up your negotiations. But
Now, as Pakistan steps up its diplomatic outreach and offers to host potential peace talks between the United States and Iran.
All right, guys, that's it. That is all I've got for you. Tune in Monday. I will be right back here bright and early. I appreciate you hanging out with me. If you'd like to send a donation, scan that code right here on the screen. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, that's me. Love you guys. Be good to each other, please. Peace, love, and hair grease.